Hello everyone and welcome once again to Team COG's channel. My name is Flexi and I'm once again granted the opportunity to show you guys one of my decks on the channel. So Charles, thank you very much again for having me. This time I'm going to talk about one of my favorite archetypes in terms of design, but not so much in terms of gameplay, and you're going to see why in just a second. It's Amazement. So now without losing any more time, let's hop right in. And first of all, the boss monster of the deck, 3 YuGiOh, no questions asked. Also, by the way, if you're an anime watcher and you watched ReZero, he kind of reminds me of Roswell-sama, which is pretty cool, and also the main reason why I was interested in the deck in the first place. But yeah, YuGiOh is pretty cool because he's essentially multi-faker, so he special summons himself if you activate a trap card. Then if your opponent special summons a monster, you can equip that monster with one of your Amazement trap cards from your deck, which you're going to see what they do in just a second. And then also he can nuke your opponent's board by banishing the Amazement trap cards in your graveyard, which are 3 very powerful effects, and you should never play less than 3 copies. It's pretty much the only monster we really play. The other monster that we play is 3 Comica, which is the normal summon of the deck, and on summon it sets an Amazement trap card from your deck, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's just generating advantage, normal summon, all the good stuff. And then the final monster I'm playing, but I'm not too sure whether I should keep it, is Nibiru. Since I don't play too many like regular hand traps, apart from Impermanence, but Impermanence is not just a hand trap in this deck, it's kind of part of the archetype, part of the engine. Nibiru is probably one of the most high impact ones in the game right now, so I thought, and also it doesn't impact us at all. Even if we lose like one of our YuGiOhs or whatever, it doesn't really matter. That's why I chose to play this one, though I might actually go for Lancia or, what's it called? Or a Droll. But yeah, I don't think something like Ash or Ogre is going to cut it, so I'm not too sure about this one, but it's probably going to stay in for a while now. And now, onto the other Amazement cards, I play 3 Time Tickets. Time Tickets essentially searches like half the deck, or at least the entire archetype, right? Also depending on what turn you activate it, but it's pretty good. Never play less than 3 of your main searcher in any deck at all. And then the final spell card, or a non-trap card of the Amazement archetype, is the Field Spell, which can sometimes help you recycle your resources by sending face-up Amazement cards from your field to the graveyard and then setting an equal amount of Amazement trap cards that are in your graveyard or banished, which is kind of meant to help you like get rid of the worst Amazement trap cards and get back the better ones, but you really don't want to play the worst Amazement trap cards because they're super bad, and just playing bad cards in order to have multiple copies of your good ones, I don't know whether it's worth it. I'd rather play like generic power trap cards instead of the bad ones, but I still like to keep this one in just in case I might need like an additional copy of the Horror House, which you're going to see in a second. Yeah, not too sure about the Field Spell, but I think at 1 is probably where I want to keep it right now. And then the next one is Pot of Extravagance. It's pretty free in this deck. You don't you don't special summon out from the extra deck at all, as you might have been able to tell. And also, I think Extravagance is even better in this deck than Prosperity, because you usually don't want to see like one specific card, even the YuGiOh. Like you don't need to have the YuGiOh in order to play the game properly or something. Rather, you want to have access to as many trap cards as possible. And then there's also the Duality, which you don't suffer from at all, since even if you were to, if you were able to special summon the YuGiOh on your turn, you don't really have to, since you're playing trap cards anyway, and you can activate them, or you want to activate them on the opponent's turn. So that's perfect for the deck. And now onto the trap cards. The best one in the entire deck, or at least the coolest one, is Horror House, which so the Amazement trap cards, the way they work, in case you don't know, is that they equip to a monster, either an Amazement monster you control or a monster your opponent controls, and then they gain different effects. So this one, if it's equipped to a monster you control, it's an Impermanence, essentially an effect veiler, and if it's equipped to an opponent's monster, it's a Book of Moon for that monster that it's equipped to, which is the most powerful interruption this archetype has. And then I'm playing 2 Cycle Coasters. I used to play 3, but with a new wave of support, there's another card I wanted to try out, so I bumped it down to 2. And this one is main deck back row removal if it's equipped to your monster, and if it's equipped to the opponent's monster, you can send it to the graveyard to add an Amazement card from your deck to your hand, which is also pretty cool, an additional searcher, though sadly it's a trap card, but it's not too bad since you usually have access to everything you need. And this is the new support that I've been talking about a second ago. If it's equipped to your monster, I think that effect is not even relevant. It's like, yeah, you can negate an attack, But if it's equipped to an opponent's monster and that monster activates an effect, then you can bounce that card back to your hand, to the opponent's hand, which doesn't work well with effects like Needle Fiber. So if he summons Needle Fiber, his effect is Chain Link 1 anyway, and then you just chain this one, so the effect doesn't even trigger. But with ignition effects like Negates, for example, you could equip this to Appaloosa or Savage Dragon on the effect activation to gain counters, and then the next time he tries to activate, you just return it to the hand, so he has like he doesn't have access to the beat stick. Or with Appaloosa leaves the field, you know. Pretty cool. And then the final archetype card is Amazement Family Faces, which you equip it to a monster your opponent controls, and then you take over control over that monster, and it turns into an Amazement monster, which means since your Amazement trap cards can only equip to monsters you control that are Amazement monsters, you can not only steal one of monster from your opponent, but you also have access to the effects that will require you to have an Amazement monster on field, right? So even if you don't have access to the Arlecchino or to the Comica, you can have access to a monster to equip your trap cards to, which is pretty cool. Sadly, it's not as searchable as the monsters or the main trap cards. That's why you could also play the 3 to have maximum access to it, but in most cases you won't really need it. I look at this as additional copies of your Amazement monsters, which is just worse than the actual monsters. So I think 2 is fine, really. And now the main trap lineup is, as I've mentioned before, 3 Impermanence. Impermanence is the main Arlecchino trigger, especially because with Impermanence on the opponent's turn, if you're going second, you can negate an opponent's monster, summon Arlecchino, and then the next time your opponent summons a monster, you equip another trap card, and then like Book of Moon the monster, for example, which is really strong. It's power play. Don't play less than 3 copies. Impermanence and Arlecchino are, well, it's like Impermanence and Mold Faker. You would never play Altergeist without Impermanence, right? Then the next one is probably actually the strongest trap card in the entire game right now. Solemn Strike. Pay 1500 life points, negate any monster or any special summon. Yeah, not much to say here. It's the best trap card in the game, probably, in my personal, humble opinion. And now there's Dogmatica Punishment, which again locks you out of the extra deck, but it really doesn't matter. Oh, the light just turned off. Well, never mind. So it locks you out of the extra deck, but it doesn't matter at all. You don't summon. Also, the extra deck is entirely made for Waking the Dragon targets and Dogmatica Punishment targets, which you're going to see in a second. So getting 1 pop or 2 off of a trap card is pretty good, and sometimes can even win you the game. And then the final trap card in the main deck is There Can Be Only One, which is probably the most powerful floodgate in the entire game right now. Now that, of course, Imperial Order is gone. Though Skill Drain might be good as well, actually. Yeah, 3 Skill Drain might be pretty good as well. Though There Can Be Only One, I think, is probably a little better. As I've mentioned in the beginning of the video, Comica and Arlecchino are different attributes, so you can have 2 monsters on field. So pretty much your entire monster lineup, right? And then your opponent can only have 1, ideally. So playing against Pendulums or like Dragon Link, any of the sorts. I think even Sword Soul is like a pure type. Drytron should be a pure type unless he's playing like Megalith Drytron. But yeah, I think There Can Be Only One is a very good option here. And now, just to quickly go over the extra deck, because there's really not much to say here. I play 3 Entis, which is the classic punishment target, pop 2 essentially. Then another punishment target is 5-headed Link Dragon, which I only own 1 copy of right now, but I would probably play 3 copies, just because he has 5,000 attack points. So in case you really need to get rid of your opponent's like 4,300 access code talk or whatever, this is probably the way to go. And then I'm also playing 3 Last Warriors, which has kind of decent attack stats, but more importantly, he's a Floodgate, which you can summon off of Awakening the Dragon. And then there's also the Full Armor Master and the Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon, which are both towers with high attack stats, so your opponent can barely get rid of them in most cases. And those are all targets for Waking the Dragon, which is currently the only card in my side deck right here. Yeah, because people hate back row decks, and then if they Feather Duster you and you summon 1 or 2 monsters from your extra deck, it's pretty free. Yeah, this has been my deck profile for Amazement. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm really sure that if you try this deck out, it's going to be a lot of fun. The only problem is, as I've mentioned before, that you don't have good ways of recurring your resources, but if the deck, like if you have a good opening hand, you're going to have a lot of fun, and it's really powerful. You're going to see that. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. I'm going to respond to them. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and other than that, guys, see you next time.